Hi there, grade nines. This is Mrs. Sorobi, and I understand that you're preparing to write a commentary soon in English. So I've put together this writing workshop to go over some of the key problems that we are noticing in many of your writing and how you can fix them and become better, clearer writers. I will also follow this up with a little quiz so you can test yourself and see if you remember, but the most important test is when you apply this knowledge. So here we go. First, please remember to use the literary present verb tense. That means that as you're writing about what a writer does using the rhetorically accurate verbs after your evidence, it's important that you're writing about this in present tense. So don't use past tense unless you're signaling something that occurred in the past in the text. But if you're talking about what the writer does, you're going to keep it in present tense. You're not going to use the continuous verb form either, the one that ends in ing. So for example, using the literary present tense. In the extract from The Hunger Games, Collins highlights, notice that it's highlights in active verb tense, and she's singular, so I need the S on the end, the disparity between the wealth of the capital and District 12s as the tributes marvel at the luxury. Both of those are in simple present tense. You're analyzing the writer's craft. I didn't say Collins is highlighting. I didn't say Collins highlighted. Collins highlights. Remember, that's the verb tense to employ and be consistent with it. Please do not write with personal pronouns. We speak using we, I, you, us, but in formal academic writing of essays, it's not appropriate. So here are some quick fixes. If you're inclined to write, we can see, take out the we and make it is evident, it is clear. Make it objective. I think, just cut it out. Any sentence you're going to say, I think, before. So if I say, I think this is a good book, I can just say this is a good book. And it means the same thing. I think, remove from this context, please. We needs to be the specific noun. Students are often inclined to say we, but it's very ambiguous who they actually mean. So, people is often a good substitute, but if you can be even more precise, is it students? Is it Vietnamese people? Citizens? Try to vary that and avoid we. Think of who we really truly means and use that. If you're going to say our world, our story, our protagonist, replace that with the. Don't take possession of something and make it belong to you. Not appropriate for essay writing. Another important tip is to reduce redundancy. Something redundant means it's useless, it's extra, and it gets in the way. I noticed that many ninth grade writers want to impress teachers by being overly wordy, and it actually acts against your success. So you have to think about choosing words carefully, not writing as many words as you can. So I have 4 tips to follow to help you proofread your own work for this. 1, cut the duplicate words. So if you have something that means the same, commit to the one that fits that context best. Don't put 2 synonyms that mean the same thing. It's redundant. So I've got an example here. The class went on an excursion, not excursion trip, the 2 words mean the same thing, into the woods. Saying woods are forested is useless. Woods and forest mean the same thing. Therefore, it's an extra word that actually interferes with the reader's understanding. If we have to process too many things, it's counterproductive to what you're trying to accomplish. Please use the standard order of adjective before noun in almost every case. This is better. So, for example, the embroidered tablecloth versus the tablecloth which was embroidered. that's kind of dancing around, and it takes the reader a lot more effort to process this and loses our focus. And please, please, please don't say, as I've said before, as mentioned above. If you're pointing out that you're repeating yourself, that's even worse than simply repeating yourself. If you are repeating yourself, if it's already been mentioned, your point should be clearly made and you should be moving on. Every word counts. Make them useful. Okay. Now, for the biggest part of this lesson, sentence construction and the components of a clear sentence. So, this is getting at avoiding run on sentences and sentence fragments. And those often happen because of a difficult lack of awareness about where to put the punctuation. And as with the reducing redundancy element, students often want to impress by adding a lot. First point is don't fear the short sentence. Good writers write with varied sentences. So there will be short ones, long ones, medium ones. They will be different sentence types. I'm going to walk you through what the three basic types of sentences are here and what the essential components are so that hopefully you can recognize when one sentence ends, requiring a period, and when to move into the next sentence. Let's get into that. Okay, so all good sentences have what's either called a simple sentence or an independent clause. It needs a subject, which is a noun, so somebody or something, a verb, an object, so somebody or something doing something, the verb is the action, to somebody or something else, and then there are a variety of ways to construct details around that. There are many other parts of speech that go into most sentences, but every good sentence must have these things. So, for example, my friend traveled to Bulgaria last summer. My friend is the subject, the verb is traveled, the object is where, to Bulgaria, and a little bit of detail about when in the summer. Of course, there are more complex permutations to sentence writing. The three basic sentence types are simple sentences, just like that independent clause I shared with you on the previous slide. Then there's compound sentences, which are joined by a conjunction. Those words like and, but, or, so, because. We're adding a second clause and joining it with that conjunction word. And then there's complex sentences, which involve an independent clause, just like that simple sentence, but it's then offset with a comma. And then there's a fragment or a dependent clause attached to it. I'll get into that in a moment. Okay, so dependent clauses are sentence fragments. They cannot exist in a world that ends in a period on their own. They leave us wondering what. So the dependent clause here, the thing that could not stand alone, is this: although the odds were that she would not survive. So if I put a period here, I would have a sentence fragment. But combined, because I've said although, now I need to explain what the condition is. So my independent clause follows. Okay, so although the odds were that she would not survive, Katniss volunteered to take Prim's place in the Hunger Games. Okay, so I could just say Katniss volunteered to take Prim's place in the Hunger Games as a sentence on its own. It works. It's got the subject, the verb, the object, and some details. But now I'm qualifying it with a condition. This, although she knew this was not a good chance. Okay? So this is a complex sentence. As I showed you those three types, it's got these two different types. You cannot have a dependent clause without an independent clause, but you can have an independent as many times as you want. Some common sentence challenges are run-on sentences. So If you've got several lines in your composition without a period yet, you're running into run-on sentence territory. This can sometimes be because of comma splices, which I'll get into later, but it means you're not using enough periods if you're getting comments that you have run-on sentences. So you need to think about where that sentence ends. Where is that clause's ending? And fragments are when you use too many periods and you have those dependent clauses that need their buddy, the independent clause, and it's an unfinished idea. Sentence fragments would be missing one of those essential building blocks of a sentence. It might be missing a subject, like because the weather was nice. Well, what? Because the weather was nice. Or an object, my favorite math teacher. Please tell me, what about your favorite math teacher? And could be missing a verb, like such as martial arts. Any of those pieces missing create this incomplete idea that doesn't fully make sense. Run-on sentences are often the result of comma splices. And that's just a fancy word for you put a comma where you should have put a period. So here's an example of a comma splice. Healthy eating is an important part of feeling great. And this comma here, that should be a period. And then I capitalize the R on the next sentence. Reasonable portion size, plenty of fruits and vegetables, and not too many processed foods nourish your body. So I'm going to link this video that goes further into comma splices. It's a great one from YouTube, and you can watch that later. And there's another video that I'm going to link on clauses in more detail, which I will leave for you to watch later. So now it's time to go and take a look at those and start the quiz. I hope this has been helpful. Please remember these tips as you write your commentaries. Best of luck to you.